There's a trouble. That's a trouble when you get older, don't when we read it,
on my fingers at the moment. In the meantime, I just had that. Oh, did you? When you come here to set the hope you said it's hot enough to TV. And if not, I'm spot. And can you do a tip? Come on my computer, watch it. I had to go to Chrome because on the internet explorer. So I'm assuming all the others are working out, weren't they?
it's all right. I was working on it before I finished.
Oh, okay.
This is live now.
That's good. I'm going to look at it. Probably going to warm if you're I'm going to pause on it. It's not too bad. You're probably better than you are. It's up to you. You're right. You're right. That was good. I like that. See people enjoy it. Yeah, good camera at the moment. Watching all good. All right, we'll get everything in the spot then, and we'll get Stephanie out of the way.
I know, we just
Good afternoon, everyone. Could I ask you all to turn your phones onto silent, please? For those folks that are in the foyer there are three seats here. There's 2 seats there, and there's a couple more scattered around the room if you'd like to come and take a seat. The family have selected a poem entitled Epitaph to a Friend by Robert Burns. An honest man here lies at rest, the friend of man, the friend of truth, the friend of age and guide of youth. Few hearts like his with virtue warmed, few heads with knowledge so informed. If there's another world, he lives in bliss. If there is none, then he made the best of this. My name is Ernest Rigby, and I'm a civil celebrant. We are gathered here today for the funeral service of a special person in our lives, and in doing so, we're all aware that our lives are interrelated and composed of many facets. Our being here today is yet another meaningful expression of love and friendship for Ray and his family. And on their behalf, I thank you all for your presence as we commemorate with sorrow, but also with respect, joy, and thankfulness the life of Raymond Wallace Driffill. On behalf of Ray's wife, Brenda, his children, Greg and Chris, son-in-law, Dave, grandchildren and partners, Corey and Shauna, Steve and Narelle, Tom and Molly, and Casey, who is deceased, his foster son, Danny, his great-granddaughter, Penelope, his surviving siblings, and his entire extended family, thank you for your attendance today. Ray's son, Greg, could not be here today. Over the last 7 weeks, he has assisted in the care of his father, and he was present and carried him when he died. Greg, who has throughout his life had difficulty in showing emotion because of his Asperger's, has now found it, and he is far too upset to be here at this time. Ray's family would like to pay special tribute to his brothers-in-law as well as their wives, John and Rosemary, Jeff and Marilyn. He treasured the time that he spent with them, and also to his good friend and nurse, Sue, together with her husband, Kevin. And who else would give an enema at the spur of the moment? In the days, weeks, months, and years ahead, there will be times we find we may need to take solace from what we share today. The grief you feel and the sense of loss are reflections of the love that you had for Ray. This love is something that cannot be taken away. The time we spend here in this chapel is all about being human and expressing the unsettling mix of emotions and responses. Tears are human, smiles are human, hugs and warmth are human. Laughs and agreements in things shared in common are all a part of who we are. And at the heart of our meditation and words is the humanness of Ray. We have gathered to celebrate that which made him tick, his individuality, his character, his habits and quirks. And out of the gifts and abilities and ambiguities with him, he reached out his hand and his heart, and he contributed to your individual lives. As a result, he has left something in you, and what you take and do with that is up to you. But this brief time together reminds us how good it is to be in relationships with people, to have love and friendship, and to see so much evidence in how Ray lived his life, that the opportunity to live and create is a marvelous thing. It is at a time like this that we think of the great debt that we owe to the past, to all of the men and women who've gone before us, and how each has contributed something great or small to the benefit of mankind as a whole. Their work has not only benefited others in their own time, but also future generations. Though this is a sad occasion, in it there can be a depth of joy that brings wisdom and strength. Raymond Wallace Driffill was born on Sunday, the 9th of July, 1939 at Newmarket, Victoria, to parents Robert and Nesta Driffill. Nesta's maiden name was Mormill, and Ray was the 8th of 11 children. Ray's older siblings are Lola, Thelma, Robert, Norman, Grace, Betty, and Will, while his younger siblings are Reg, Gwen, and Keith. Ray's father was a merchant seaman who managed to get Nesta pregnant every time he came home. He was also not a nice person, and he would frequently beat his wife and children. Nesta was able to get away from him and move the family to Bunbury in Western Australia when Ray was 7. she took up with a man whose name was Bill and who showed a great deal of kindness and compassion to Ray and all of the family. He became known as Pop, and his positive paternal presence had a profoundly good effect on Ray. A small thing that he did that had consequences down the line was that he would give the children a bag of lollies every week. This small kindness had a good effect on Ray, who continued the tradition with his own children and grandchildren. Bearing in mind the abuse that Ray and his family had suffered at the hands of their father, then this is a measure of how a little goodness can have such a lasting effect. Ray went to school at Bunbury, but he left at the age of 13 and took a job in a bakery as an errand boy. He stayed for a while and then went to a place in Western Australia called Collie, 60 kilometres east of Bunbury, and he was given a job on a dairy farm that required him to live there. Ray really enjoyed being on the farm, and later in life he dreamt of owning a property of his own. He stayed there for a while, and afterwards he had a job with an outback cattle station before going on to work for a diamond drilling firm. Ray continued his outback adventures until he was 21 years of age, when he left and came to Melbourne, and he stayed in a boarding house with his brother. In Melbourne, Ray did all sorts of jobs, from window cleaning to petrol bowser attendant, and a good many more in between. In April of 1961, Ray met Brenda Margaret Hillard at a dance in Hawthorn Town Hall, and Ray asked her to dance, and they got along really well. Brenda told me, "I found Ray to be really nice, and it didn't hurt. He was also pretty good looking. He had a nice old world charm, and he was a gentleman. When he asked if he could take me home, I told him yes, but he had to take my girlfriend and her boyfriend as well." Ray hesitated, and I was a bit worried until he confessed that his car was a two-seater go-go mobile. We had to put them on the back of the car, but we got them home somehow. Over the course of the next year and a half, the two became an item, and they went on a great many dates together, dancing, movies, family gatherings. And at the end of 1962, without a proposal, the two decided to get married. And so on the 9th of February 1963, the couple were married at Holy Cross Catholic Church in Caulfield. They set up home at Ormond, where they stayed for 1 year before moving to Oakley for another year. The couple's first child, Gregory, arrived in 1964, and it was a time of great joy for the couple. Meanwhile, Ray found a job as a sales rep for a cosmetic company, where his clients were chemist shops as well as Myers and David Jones. Ray was a fantastic salesman who had a way of looking after his customers. Over the years, he moved from company to company, but he retained his clientele all throughout his working life. And it got to the point where most of his clients would tell him to put the orders in as he saw fit, because they trusted him implicitly. In modern parlance, he would be known as a relationship builder, but in truth, Ray was just being himself, and his honest approach came shining through. While Ray and Brenda were living at Oakley, Brenda's mother and two sisters moved in with them, and it was really nice to have a full house. Ray and Brenda left for Perth in 1966 with the intention of staying there permanently. Brenda didn't like it, and she cried for the 9 months they were there before they moved back to Melbourne, to a home in Edithvale that they shared with Brenda's mother. It was good for the family to be back together. Ray and Brenda's second child, their daughter Chris, was born in 1967. And once again, this was a happy time for the family. In 1973, the family moved from Edithvale to Seaford, where they stayed until 1984, when Ray was able to finally realise his childhood dream of owning some land. It was only 3 acres, but it was everything to Ray, and he was able to now buy and keep some horses. Ray absolutely loved everything to do with horses. He began to breed them, and he would go on musters twice yearly to Clayton Station near Birdsville, and he would sometimes take the family with him. He became intrigued with the history of the Australian Light Horse Regiment and their battles during the First World War. For many years, Ray was involved with the Light Horse Museum, where he took part in a great many reenactments of battles. He took his family to the War Memorial in Canberra, and he urged and cajoled the next generation to take a serious interest in our history. Ray Ray's horse and his swag were his travelling companions, and this kind of slow travelling enabled him to see in detail the parts of this country that he loved. Horses weren't the only interest that Ray had, though. When he was younger, he became a world champion offshore speedboat racing co-driver, if that's the right wording. He competed in the 17-foot division, which he and his racing partner won in 1982. Ray was a thorough gentleman who would cross the street to avoid conflict. He despised reality television shows, and Q&A became one of his least favourites. He liked documentaries, The Big Bang Theory, Live at the Apollo, westerns and war movies. Music that Ray liked included the works of Slim Dusty, Hank Williams, the Pussycats, the Eagles, Johnny Cash and Otis Redding. Foods that he liked were mainly plain, honest foods like milkshakes, bacon and eggs, shepherd's pies, with the odd serving of Indian or Chinese. Ray was extremely close to all of his grandchildren, and one was Casey. The bond between them was incredible, and when Casey died at the age of 7, Ray was devastated. Casey had a favourite feather that, unknown to the family until recently, Ray kept in his wallet all these years as a reminder of him. Ray and Brenda realised after Casey's death that they had something they would like to give, and so they became involved with respite care of children with disabilities through interchange. And one boy, Danny, became very special to them. They looked after him one weekend a month for 13 years, and he is now 29 years of age and doing quite well with a job at Woolworths. Ray and Brenda are very proud of Danny, who deals with adversity every day with good humour and courage. I sat down with Ray's family the other day, and here are some of the stories they shared with me. And I'll just take a drink if you don't mind, I'm really dry. Brenda said, after first meeting Ray at that dance and having him take me home, he contacted me again virtually straight away. He would take me for drives in his go-go mobile, and he'd sometimes have the hood up, but it was uncomfortable because of the fumes, so mainly it was down. Also, it was hard to get in and out with a tight skirt, but it was a lot of fun for a couple of youngsters. If we pulled up at red lights and there was someone next to us who was revving their car, then Ray took great delight in putting his foot down really hard. Our little car would shoot across the road before anything else. It was very quick on takeoff, but then it virtually stopped and was really slow. Ray even did that with a police car once and beat them across the intersection, which made them laugh. Ray loved that car, but of course it wasn't very sensible. When he became a sales rep, he was lucky enough to always have a company car, and so even when we were poor, we always had a lovely car. I loved ballroom dancing, and Ray was good at it. We would go to Hawthorne Town Hall and Ziegfeld's and Leggett's in Pram. We didn't do much dancing after we got married, though. I was working at the TAB when I met Ray, and I worked with them for about 38 years. I started off in telephone betting, and I got my own agency later on. Greg worked with me at one stage, and Chris did too. I retired when I was 63, and now my sister and I volunteer with the library at a primary school, and we have a ball. When we had Greg, Ray was thrilled that we had a boy. When Chris came along, he was equally happy. Ray and I loved travelling overseas. My brother John and his wife Rosemary paid for Ray, myself, my sister, and her husband to go on 3 overseas trips. If it hadn't been for them, we would never have gone, and we had the most wonderful times. In 2015, we went to France for a month, Paris on the underground, and then by bus to Nice and Monaco and over the Alps. Then we went on a bus trip around England, Wales and Scotland for 3 weeks, before having another 3 weeks travelling around France and Italy, and then around Rome. Another year we went to Provence with a week in Doha and on to Kuwait, followed by another week in Rome. And we never had a moment that wasn't perfect. And when Lake Erie was full of water for the first time in decades, my wonderful brother also flew us over it in his own little plane, which was wonderful. Ray absolutely loved those trips. Ray and I have had an extremely fortunate life, and family have played a huge part. Our son-in-law Dave took Chris off our hands, and he has been terrific. From giving us our beautiful grandchildren, to building our house, he has always been there for us, and Ray and I have always appreciated him. Ray will rest easy knowing that Dave is looking after us all. Ray got on well with all of his siblings too. A couple we've lost contact with over the years, but that's just through attrition. We went to Perth in June and Ray got to see his old schoolmates that he kept in touch with. It was great for him to see his sisters and brother-in-law too. At the time of our visit, we had no idea that he was going to be struck down. Ray's mother was lovely. She came to live in Melbourne around 1966. Pop had already died by that time, and as a result, we were able to see a lot of her, which was good. She was a very house-proud and a dignified lady who lived to 98. Greg told me, "I just want to say that I loved him. He raised me to be the man that I am today with Mum. Dad had a little fiberglass boat that he made. It was like a bathtub, and he raced it from Thornton to Seymour with a 25 horsepower motor. We went there with him for quite a few years and stayed at the same motel. He broke down once after taking a wrong turn on the river, and we had to go and find him." Chris told me, "Life with Dad was just full on." I remember horses from a young age. And one Christmas that Greg got a motorbike and I got a horse. That was something kids back then could only dream of. And then Dad got right into horse breeding. One particular incident with the horses traumatized me a lot. It was when Dad wanted the stallion to service the mare. He put a mattress against the gate, and I was behind it holding the mare, while the stallion had his way with her. And I, after a while, became bored. So I leaned to one side to ask if the job was done yet, when the stallion fell off the mare. I remember it wasn't raining that day, but somehow I got really wet. Which made me scream something like, "Oh my God, what happened, and am I pregnant now?" I was 13, and Dad just turned around and told me I had to pay him $1,200. Good job, mate. Ever since sense of humour. His first stallion was aptly named Dick, and he took it to the Dandenong show and won first prize. But the horse broke Dad's nose in the process, and the judge told Dad, "The horse is wonderful, but you are as green as grass." Dad knew where all his horses ended up, and he would always say when he sold or gave them away that the people should bring them back, that they couldn't look after them. Growing up, we always did family picnics and would go to Rip on Lee or Puffing Billy. Just anything that is an attraction. Somehow, that's what we would go to. Mum and Dad were born to be grandparents, and because of the way they were with the children, I got to see sides of them that were just incredible. I wanted Mum and Dad to be a part of everything, and thank God, my dearest husband felt the same way, because they came everywhere. My kids only know of 4 people that brought them up, and that's me, their dad, their nan, and their pop. I'm just so proud of my dad. Everyone who met him loved him. Dad and Mum have been great parents. We never have to worry about whether we should have done this or that or the other, because we did everything, and we've always been a great family, thanks to them both. On July the 27th, Ray tripped and hit his head getting out of bed. He was unresponsive, and an ambulance was called that took him to Casey Hospital. Sadly, some tests showed a growth, and he was sent to Monash, where it was confirmed that Ray had an inoperable tumour. There was little that could be done, and Ray was told to go home and live his life, which he did. Very quickly he became worse, and his son Greg stepped in and helped Ray with toileting and dressing, for which Ray was extremely grateful. When Ray died, he was gently carried to his bed by Greg. When I asked the family what Ray would be most proud of, the answer came back quickly. His family, they said. He loved everyone in it, and he was so proud. Ray Driffill conducted himself throughout his life as a thorough gentleman. He made the most of everything, and he had a long, successful, and loving marriage. He made friends wherever he went, but most of all, he made a difference to the lives of everyone he met. He was a really good man, and he will be missed. I have a tribute that's come in from Alice Springs, from Julia Barker. Dear Brenda, Greg, my good friend Chris and the family, I'm sending you my love today from Alice Springs. I'm sorry I am unable to be with you all today as you say goodbye to Ray. My thoughts are with you. With love, Julie. If I can ask daughter Chris to come forward, please.
Could everyone just turn around because it's look the other way. Dear Dad, you'll be proud of Mum. Last week she washed every bit of linen, clothes and hankies in the house and ironed everything she washed, including your underwear. And how proud are we of Greg? He was your rock. You and he had each other when it mattered. You'll be so embarrassed by the crowd you have managed to pull today. I, however, enjoy the attention. I was so lucky. There isn't many kids that get a horse for Christmas. I should have realised that excitement was short-lived as it took 4 people to hold it for me to get on. I remember when I wanted my eyebrows plucked. And my dad, he got some ice, numbed the area and plucked away. I still feel the pain today. My memories of you, Dad, is of you and I riding horses side by side. It'll never leave me, nor will your constant advice. Seriously, I have his voice in my head. When we watched as you were taken away ever so slowly, Mum said, I suppose they have to drive slow because if they hit a bump, Ray will come flying out the back of the van. We roared with laughter, picturing it. It was funny. Well, Dad, I'll finish up with what you wanted, to thank your family and your friends. For their love and support. Sue, as a registered nurse, was invaluable for advice and support. Mum, you were the one that mattered the most. You cared for Dad with love and respect. You're always by his side. I didn't want to, individualise people and that, but Clayton Station was his where-to-go place. There's 2 men who happen to have the same shirt on. Blue. Dad gave them away to them. Apparently he had to earn it, so I still don't know how they did earn them. But anyway, there is Clayton Station shirts. And he loved going up there. And I can't believe how Debbie has flown all the way to be here. Also her daughter, Jess. And they're going straight back again. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. Can I ask grandson Tom to come forward?
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tom, and Ray was my pop. A few days after Pop passing, I knew it felt only right that I would say a few words about him. Not only was he Pop, he was a friend and a role model. As most of you know, Pop was a very funny man, although the things that made me look up to him was because of how caring, loving and honest he was. He was a man of his word, and he made sure that everyone in our family knew we could rely on Pop. As my brothers would tell you too, going to Nan and Pot's was one of the highlights of our childhood, and there was nothing better than playing board games or army men inside on a rainy day at Nan and Pot's. I remember this one time. I was playing with my army men, and I set them all up. I had a huge army, and I asked Pop if he'd like to play. I gave him about 10 to my 100, and he said, yeah, all right, just got to go to the toilet. So I'm sitting there all happy, laughing, thinking I'm about to wipe Pop out. So I thought, I'll get an audience, so I asked Nan to come over. And just while I'm waiting for him, he comes out of nowhere, this huge tank, and just squashes every single one of my army men and says, I won. I couldn't believe it. All I was left thinking was, is that my tank now? Pop was always there for me, and in every way, he made sure he proved it. Pop would never miss a sporting game, grandparents' days, school events, And just when I was sick or feeling down, he'd always know how to make me smile. As much as Pop shared his love, he also shared his discipline. And man, did we deserve it sometimes. I remember this one time, and it's the only time I can think of Pop getting cross with me and Steve ever. The house they live in now was only just built, so there was clunks of clay everywhere. Steve and I were standing on top of the hill when we decided we should chuck every single one down into the Pop's horse's paddocks. Well, when Pop come out and saw, he didn't have to say a lot, but me and Steve ran back down that hill and started bringing them all back up. Pop was a very humble man. He never liked to be the centre of attention, in life and now in death. He wouldn't want us to focus on him. He wouldn't want us to focus on the sadness of his death, but instead focus on the happiness in our lives. He would want us to appreciate each other and our future. So thank you, Pop, for all the pickups, army battles, even if you cheated, gun battles, movie nights, and for your love and support no matter what. You taught me right from wrong and showed me how a real man should act. You were a man with morals that I will carry on following for the rest of my life. I will always miss you, Pop, but I have so many happy memories to hang on to. You were a role model and a friend. I love you, Pop, until we meet again.
Thank you, Tom. Ray's family have selected some photos and music which the people of David W. Ball Funerals have used to create a photo slideshow presentation of his life. I invite you to use this opportunity to reflect on your cherished memories of Ray.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. still mine. I need your love. I need your love. Godspeed your love to me. Lonely rivers flow to the sea, to the sea, to the open arms of the sea. Lonely riverside, wait for me, wait for me. I'll be coming home, wait for me. Oh, my love, my darling, I hunger for your touch. Are you still mine? I need your love. I need your love. Godspeed your love to
Ladies and gentlemen, when we leave the chapel today, the furniture will be rearranged and you'll be invited to come back inside for some light refreshments. This will be an opportunity to share some more stories of Ray's life. And now, the time has come to say farewell to Ray. As we have acknowledged our appreciation for the privilege of sharing a part of Ray's life, we will always remember him. We will live our daily lives more fully with integrity of purpose, cheerfulness and love, just like he did. Even though his death has meant a physical break in the links of the chain that binds you to each other, the influence and the effect of Ray's life is still evident as we say his name. And so, using the words written by the Australian poet Ruth Burgess, we say to Ray, "Into the freedom of wind and sunshine we let you go. Into the dance of the stars and the planets we let you go. Into the wind's breath and the hands of the star maker we let you go. We love you, we miss you, we want you to be happy. Go safely, go dancing, go running home." There are words written that I quote, "Remember the joy and love that once we shared. Memory is the treasury and keeper of all things. Miss me, but let me go." We can do this by realizing that grief is love. And it is because we feel such pain that we know the depth of our love. Grief is not a mountain to be climbed with the strong reaching the summit long before the weak. Don't be afraid to grieve. Think about, talk about, and treasure your memories of Ray and be your own timekeeper. The experience of grief is powerful, but so is your ability to help yourselves to heal. When you do, you will move towards a renewed sense of understanding the purpose in your own lives. This is probably enough from me, but if the words that have been spoken today have had any meaning at all, then let it be this. In accepting the reality of loss, a change will occur in our values and priorities. Things that once seemed important may become unimportant. Things that were unimportant may take on a new significance. When our values and priorities change, then so do our lives. Let us recognize the beauty and the purpose of Ray's life and make his life a part of our own. Let the memory of him add to our growth and the quality and strength of our characters. Let us leave Ray to rest in peace. Thank you. Please be seated and please remain seated for the moment.
Looking forward, looking back, I've come a long way down the track, got a long way left to go, making songs from what I know, making sense of what I've seen, all the love we've had between you and I along the track, looking forward, looking back. There are strange days full of change on the way, but we'll be fine. Unlike some, I'll be leaning forward to see what's coming, looking forward, looking back. I've come a long way down the track, got a long way left to go, making songs from what I know. If I'm alone at night, I can see through all triviality of the day, and I'm okay. I just think of those who are dear to me, looking forward, looking back. I've come a long way down the track, got a long way left to go, making songs from what I know, making songs from what I know, looking forward, looking back. Looking forward, looking back, I've come a long way down the track, got a long way left to go, making songs from what I know, making sense of what I've seen, all the love we've had between you and I along the track, looking forward, looking back. There are strange days full of change on the way, but we'll be fine, unlike some. I'll be leaning forward to see what's coming, looking forward, looking back. I've come a long way down the track, got a long way left to go, making songs from what I know. If I'm alone at night, I can see through all triviality of the day, and I'm okay. I just think of those who are dear to me, looking forward, looking back. I've come a long way down the track, got a long way left to go, making songs from what I know, making songs from what I know, looking forward,